Hey everybody, Lorelia here, and I am doing a YouTube live video. Came across this article on uh, the social media on Facebook, and so kind of wanted to talk about it. It was an article, the Washington Post, recently. Let me see, recently. Um, Put it up February the 28th. And the article says the heartbreaking decrease in black home ownership. Racism and rollbacks in government policies are taking their toll. So, I checked out the article. And depending on, what side of the coin um, you want to look at this. In the article, they show, looks like a part of, I'm not sure what part of the country this would be. The article does mention about a couple. Starts off about Vanessa Bulnes and her husband Richard bought a house in East Oakland, California in '92. A modest two-bedroom property. They lived there for 20 years. A predominantly African American community. And then there seems to be a setback. The husband had a stroke in 2008, and the couple was down on one income. And so, without boring, should I say, boring you with the very small details, I put a link under this video about the article. It's basically a case of, from what I see in this in this article, of here it is, a couple took part in what's considered the American dream, whereas they bought a home. And I guess they thought they would live there for 30 years. But life happens. The husband had a stroke, down to one income. And lo and behold, the sad part of the story is they lose the home. And like I said, it depends on what side of the coin you want to look at this. Now, this is my take on this article. And it's something that I always talk about with other videos that I've did. I'm not going to discredit or argue the fact that there were government policies that have, kept us African Americans away from buying homes, creating wealth for ourselves. I mean, that's been documented. It's been shown. I understand there is information on there. Redlining is real, what have you. But I want to look at it because in life, you have to look at things. Is the glass, how they say, half full? Is the glass full or half empty? And the reason why I say that is because, like, right now I have, there's a family member of mine that we are connected on social media. And he's a former, he's a veteran, works for the government, and him and I have had these conversations, and he feels like, woe is the middle class person. Oh, woe is, the little guy is just trying to make, his or her way, and they are losing financially. And you have to understand, I'm in my 40s, my cousin is in his 40s, and many of us, and it somewhat relates to this article, many of us are dealing with outdated information when it comes to black, home ownership, black wealth building, or what have you. And the reason why I say we're dealing with a outdated model is because I don't know if a lot of people have gotten the memo, but your home, a home that you own, that you live in, not something that you own and you rent out, is not considered an asset. And I know people don't want to hear that. You got the talking heads all over the internet. The financial specialists are telling you your home is an asset. Don't get me wrong. If you leverage it properly, it can possibly be an asset. But many people, like I said, they're dealing with an outdated model when it comes to personal finance, financial literacy, and wealth building. The outdated model is, I'm going to work real hard, whether it's my government job, because like I said, in the case of my cousin, work, veteran, government job, was affected by the government shutdown that occurred about the early part of 2019. He's mad, he's bitter, he's fought for his country, he's got a government job, can't seem to make, ends meet. And so the reason why he's bitter is because he has been told all his life, as well as a whole bunch of other people, that if you do what is designed for you, which is go to school, because he's a college graduate, go to school, get a college degree, plus served our country, plus work for the government, you're going to live real good. And you got to understand, when you have seen, in the case of my cousin, family members who were able to create some type of, I won't say wealth, but was given the ability to create a nice financial lifestyle for themselves. Yes, I have a lot of family who live in the Washington, D.C. area. Those individuals, of course, they're older, they're retired, they have children my age. Back when they used to work in the 50s and the 60s or whatever, they were able to do that. They were able to work that job, save money, buy a home. Many of them are empty nesters, or the house is paid off free and clear. They're only paying taxes. And since they were fiscally very diligent with their finances, they've lived a great lifestyle. But like I said, that's an outdated model when it comes to personal finance, financial literacy, or wealth building. Like I started the conversation with this video, a personal home is not an asset. It is a liability. And I really wish I should have, I like to put visuals so people can see how this works. See, the reason why, and I understand the talking heads are telling you your home is an asset. How is your home an asset when assets bring income into your household? Unless you have a multi-family home, and unfortunately, this family or this couple did not, and I'm not even sure if this is their home, but this couple did not have a multi-family home. Because of course, if they had a multi-family home, a portion of their home is being rented out. And so that, in that case, the house becomes an asset because there's income being brought in to your home. Or if they have bought the home and they said we're renting it out, then of course the home becomes an asset. But if you, like this couple, buy a home and you're just paying out the mortgage, there's no money coming in because you're the only one, you're the sole owner of the home, you're the sole person who lives there. So no one pays you. So now that so-called asset that the talking heads have told you is really a liability. And so when I say many of us are dealing with an outdated model when it comes to sustaining ourselves financially, we still think that one job is enough. we still think that one income is enough. I showed you in the video the other day that I did, where I talked about the correlation with real estate notes versus real estate assets in terms of purchasing actual property. Neither one is a bad idea, just depends on what strategy you decide to want to do. But at the end of the day, the point that I was making with that video is that I was showing you, because many people don't know where money comes from. And in that video, I said that money or income comes from either assets you own, assets you create, or, and of course, it comes from people who take part in those two, either in the assets that you own or the assets that you create. And so when you see a story like this, you know for certain that that person, like it said in the article, let me go back to it, the husband only had, the husband had a job, and then everything was left for the wife. And so after Richard had a stroke in 2008, reducing the couple to a single income, they fell behind on their mortgage and eventually lost their home to foreclosure. A years-long legal effort to refinance the loan on the property failed, and in 2012, they were forced to move into a rental home where they live today. And so now they are, and it just says the Bullnesses plight echoes one that plagued many American families in the wake of the housing collapse. When foreclosure rates soared, but black families were hit particularly hard, housing data show forcing many of their homes and pushing black ownership rates to record lows. And it goes back to, like I said, many of us do not know the game. We do not know the game economically. And many of us are still dealing with we're still reading from the wrong playbook. And that playbook is, I'm going to work this one job. I'm going to work real hard. I'm going to buy a home, and this home is considered my asset, even though I'm not generating no income from it. I'm not renting it out to nobody. I'm the only one who lives here. It financially is a liability. If you understand accounting, you would know that that the home that you buy and you're just making mortgage payments to is a liability, and it's an expense. It's not an asset, because assets bring money into your household. So going back to what I said, so many people are dealing with a very outdated and antiquated model when it comes to money. Now, of course, records have shown, information has shown that many of the big banks have foreclosed on people the wrong way, in terms of the robo-signers and what have you. And could this have been a case where this particular family could have been affected by this? Of course, it possibly could be. Maybe they were foreclosed on improperly. Were there things in place that they possibly could have did? Could they have did a loan modification? And you got to understand what any type of mortgage relief that you're trying to get. What most people don't understand is you have to qualify. And so we don't know. That's the only thing the article doesn't show. The article doesn't really say if the wife even applied for any mortgage relief. And then if she applied, did she qualify? Because you have to have what they're considered a sustainable income for them to even modify the mortgage. So there's a lot of mitigating factors. Of course, they bought the home in 2008. We all know during that time, interest rates were crazy or what have you. Values were inflated. And so I know right here in the market of New Jersey, although values have risen, but they're still not at the numbers of what was going on in 2006 and 2007. So imagine you buying a home of 2008 back then, and you never did try to get the value of that home, go to your mortgage company, have them to reassess the value of the home to bring the loan balance. So there's creative ways of what you can do or what you could have did, because I think a lot of those programs are over. They were all under the Obama plan. What you could have did to give yourself relief, and that's the only thing that this article is not talking about. Now, the one thing that I do notice when it comes to African Americans and Black home ownership, from what I see, is that our unwillingness to really learn and be open enough to read from another playbook. Like, I understand this is not a video to say, no, we're doing this wrong. No, that's not it. But I do realize, even with me, when I talk to people, when I'm doing consultations, I realize that many of us are reading and we're following the wrong playbook when it comes to things financially. But then we have some people, like I said, that's the great thing about YouTube, this great thing about social media, that now we live in a time and place where you can be introduced to some things that you may have never even realized that was out there to help you financially. But the problem is that, like I said, many of us are still trying to, get that antiquated, old business model to work. And unfortunately, it's just not going to really work for many of us. There's going to be a lot of cases where many people are going to fall into this trap, whether they're African American or not. And so it even says on the Bulney 6 block street alone, at least 35 properties were foreclosed on between 2006 and 2012, according to the Alliance of Californians for Community Empowerment, ACCE, an advocacy group for low-income communities of color. So like I said, this definitely could have been a case of where, like I said, many of these people are or were affected by what a lot of these big banks were doing with the robo-signing or what have you. So if I had to look at this article and really have to really side with what the writer is talking about, is the unfair treatment that many of these mortgage companies have put in place. Because unfortunately, what I don't want a person to do is read this and begin to X themselves out of the equation of wealth building and using real estate as a tool to help them. Because that's the bad thing, is that many people will look at this and say, you know what, I don't really, have a chance to take part in the wealth building process with buying, a home or investing in real estate due to what has happened to, so many other people. And like I said, in the article, because like I said, if I had to side, I would have to say that there may have been a lot of people who were unfairly foreclosed on. It even says in here, yet over the past decade, the real estate fortunes of African Americans have reversed course despite a strengthening economy, including low unemployment and higher wages for Black workers. Home ownership levels for the group have dropped incrementally almost every year since 2004. It fell to 43% 2017, virtually erasing all the gains made since the passage of the Fair Housing Act of 1968. the landmark legislation outlawing housing discrimination. And all that has to do with redlining and many of us just being, left out with the home buying process and the ability to buy homes. I mean, I even look at myself, for example. My mother always wanted to be a homeowner and she just couldn't get the opportunity, trying to buy a home in the early 70s, being a single woman, no one would give her a loan. So I understand redlining is real. It even affected me, like I said, in terms of what my family tried to do. So I get it, and so it goes into nationally 63.9% of Americans owned a home in 2017. The Harvard report says white home ownership rate reached 72.9% and up from 72.2% a year earlier, and the Hispanic ownership rate increased 46% up to 45.5%. So if anything, I have to say is, like I said, I do think that some people have been unfairly foreclosed on. But the one thing that if I can really push in regards to this article is the importance of us reading from a new playbook. Understand the difference of how assets can produce income for you, and also why one income is just not enough. It even goes into that some of the things that are affecting black people in terms of debt wise. They include a lack of affordable housing in some areas, chronically low inventory in others. Rising student debt is increasingly an issue too, as more financially strapped buyers struggle to save for a down payment. So it's real, in terms of debt, something that I always talk about. So grappling with student debt and affordability issues generates a much greater barrier to home ownership. So imagine, many of us have been told, go to college, go to college, go to college. College is great. I totally get it. But when you begin to accumulate all this student loan debt, and now you go into the so-called real world and try to get a job, your income is small, your debt is high, you're now in the rat race. And so how can you, develop or even save up for a down payment? So, like I said, I've tried to look at this article two ways. I've looked at it from the standpoint of unfair treatment from the mortgage companies. I totally get that. Us as African Americans still being told to accumulate all this student loan debt with the hopes that we are going to move forward financially. That's an old, outdated playbook. I'm all for college, but there has to be an affordable way for us to go. I'm not with the playbook of just go and accumulate all this debt. African American testers posing as home buyers were often denied information about special incentives that would have made their purchase easier and were required to produce loan pre-approval letters and other documents when whites were not. The Alliance also settled a federal fair housing complaint in 2017 alleging that real estate agents in Jackson, Mississippi were discriminating against black clients and steering people away from high-valued areas and into segregated communities based on race. That's what I said. It's real. I totally, agree with all of that. Because it even says in 2017, 19.3% of black applicants were denied a conventional home loan compared with 7.9% of whites, according to the Federal Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That's the CFPB. The refinancing market saw similar differentials with blacks rejected on 39%. So that's why, it's so important for us to learn this real estate game, the ins and the outs. The reason why I say that, I remember when, I first started to really introduce myself to real estate, and what really pushed me to learn the ins and outs was that I remember trying to um, get a mortgage loan, and there were things that I just didn't understand. Um, and now that I look back, and I'll do a separate video on that, with how to get qualified. What are some of the things that the mortgage broker was doing? Like, now that I look back, I see that he was really doing things to benefit himself, to make sure that his commissions were higher. So that's really, like I said, article is really interesting. In some cases, even when blacks have higher credit scores, they will often offer worse financing terms than less qualified whites. Like I said, all that I understand, the housing policy, economic policy, that, I mean, of course, that's still all true. Um, and then it talks about Leonti Benton, 34, said having a strong understanding of the home buying process helped when he purchased his 4-bedroom home in South Fulton, Georgia. See, it goes back to, like I always say, educating yourself. Because look what he said, having a strong understanding of the home buying process. And it said a commercial real estate broker, Benton. So there he goes. So once again, just what I just said. It seems like he, learned, real estate by getting into the industry. And by doing that, it says a commercial real estate broker, Benton, said he fully understood the challenges of securing a loan and having enough saved for a down payment well before his home search began. He also sought out broker Jeffrey Hicks of Apollo Associates Realty in Atlanta after learning that he specialized in helping African Americans build wealth through home ownership. People can underestimate what's needed to actually buy a home, said Benton, who moved into the property with his wife and their 1-year-old child. The couple have another baby on the way, so I see where families can come up short in the process, and be fully prepared made all the difference for us. So, very interesting article. I'm going to put the link above, below this video so you can check it out. But I just wanted to kind of touch on that. So that's all I have for you. Here's some more things. This is the couple that lost their home and living in the rental home. So that's all I have for you today, and I look forward to talking to you in the next video. If you are interested in any of the services, rebuilding your credit, the free, the cash to credit, the credit to cash flow program that I have, the link will be below this video. The credit dispute software, all the links will be below. Until the next until the next time, please leave a comment, share, let me know your thoughts. Okay, bye bye.